Hey everyone, Road Breach here, and today we're taking a look at Transformers Devastation. Transformers Devastation is a third-person action game developed by Platinum Games and published by Activision for PC, PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One on October 6, 2015. I've offhandedly spoken about this game for a long time, and I definitely should have ended my Transformers game review marathon with this game. But since we've gotten to such a momentous milestone, I figured this would make a great subject to celebrate 1K subscribers. So, what makes this particular game so good? Well, let's transform, roll out, and see what this game has to offer. Let's start with the case. The case has some great artwork of Megatron and Optimus squaring off, with Devastator behind them. In the background, we can see some buildings, and at the top, we see the title of the game with Devastation written in the same font as Transformers, but with a stone-like texture and some distress at the bottom of the text. On the back, the game tells us about the fast-paced combat system, the 5 playable Autobots, and the fact that transformation can be used in combat. I should also point out that this particular copy that I got came with a leaflet that advertises Combiner Wars Devastator, which is a set that I already have. Now, onto the game. The game goes for a cel-shaded comic book aesthetic with its visuals. I think this works to a point. There are some spots where you'd expect to be an outline if this was legitimately hand-drawn that don't have an outline, and when Devastator combines, you can see that the end of the arm connector doesn't have a texture. Another thing I'm not crazy about is how some parts of the bots that shouldn't bend will warp, like the ankles. And the beginning cutscene has no humans in it when it really should have, considering the setting. I'm willing to bet that this was a mix of time and budget constraints, though. Besides that, the character designs are very faithful to the G1 cartoon, simple and blocky shapes with minimal detailing. And even though the game reuses enemy models, I like that they fit in with the aesthetic of the game, and I could conceivably see these guys showing up in the G1 cartoon. I did notice that Bumblebee looks a little different from his G1 model. His chest isn't the entire roof of the car, his backpack is the entire back end of the vehicle mode, and his vehicle mode is noticeably different from a Volkswagen Beetle. He looks more like the Reveal to Shield Bumblebee in his alt mode. Some bots are also more stylized like Motormaster and Menasor, which I believe was a welcome change that makes both of them better to look at. The weapons look pretty nice, and the retro aesthetic is nicely brought over to them as well. The classic weapons are faithfully recreated, and the new weapons made for the game fit alongside them. The game's levels have 3 different themes: City, Cybertron, and the Proud Star. The city looks pretty basic. The city doesn't really have too much going for it. It does have some neat little details here and there, but ultimately it just doesn't feel like it has much personality. Cybertron and the Proud Star are very similar with panel lining and little energy lights here and there, but the Proud Star has these bottomless pits that, if this is supposed to be a ship, then this ship must be absolutely massive. The cutscenes are well animated, and the cinematography helps make them look dynamic, like I'm watching an anime at times. Though I have noticed that sometimes the lip sync will look a little more puppet-like, just with up and down motions, which, once again, I'm willing to bet was probably a time or budget thing. The voice acting is great. Many of the original voice actors were brought back to reprise their roles, and the vocal effects they put on the voices are very accurate to the cartoon. It feels great to see Peter Cullen and Frank Welker reprise their roles as Optimus and Megatron respectively.
Megatron, what is the meaning of this?
Optimus, come to save the day, I presume?
And seeing Dan Gilvenzen reprise his role as Bumblebee is something I didn't know I needed.
Another Cybertronian ship crashed on Earth? What are the odds?
The music is absolutely excellent. The combination of techno, rock, and orchestral really fits the tone of the game, and the energetic tempo in battle is perfect for the type of combat the game has. I mean, just listen to some of this. And one thing I really like is that when you're in the Ark and you change which menu you're in, the music of the Ark will change its instrumentation. So the presentation is pretty good, especially with the music. But now let's talk about the game mechanics, because this is where the game really shines. Transformers Devastation is a hack and slash with some ranged weapons. Ranged weapons do have ammo that you can get by killing enemies or by using an item that refills ammo to all weapons or a single weapon. You start off with a set loadout with one gun and a melee weapon, but you can customize your loadout in the Ark from weapons that you get from finding in weapon chests, secret caches, or by defeating bosses. There's way too many guns to go through individually, but I'll give an overview of what the game has. The game has basic pistols, machine guns, sniper rifles, shotguns, and rocket launchers, as well as grenade launchers. Many of the guns have different status effects that do different things to the enemies. This was the one part of the combat I didn't really care much about. If it's fun to use in combat, that's all I care about. The gunplay is kinda lacking in my opinion. I feel the firing sounds don't feel as impactful as they do in the Cybertron games, but some of the shotguns have much better firing sounds, and they're a lot of fun to use. But the heavy spread shot is terrible, its range is atrocious, and its damage is worse than the normal spread shot. That's twice now that I've tried a heavy shotgun in a video game, and it makes me just want a normal shotgun. But the normal shotguns are pretty good. They don't have the highest fire rate or range, but they do have great damage, and they're a lot of fun to use in close quarters battle. The machine guns hold plenty of ammo per magazine and have a fast fire rate, but their accuracy isn't that good. I didn't use the sniper rifles too often, but they do great damage with headshots. Missiles have a slow fire rate, unless we're talking about the Gatling missiles that have a great fire rate, but they lock onto enemies and deal great damage. Grenade launchers are situational, but they're great for crowd control. And the game has plenty of options for dual firearms that you can use that put together have a great fire rate and have great accuracy and range. But you don't just get a selection of guns, because the game also has plenty of melee weapons like swords, hammers, axes, cutters, and gloves. You even get Bulkhead's Wrecking Ball from Transformers Prime. Most of the melee weapons are pretty fast, but the hammer does have some pretty slow windups, and especially if you're using Grimlock, you need to do a bunch of dodge rolling. Kinda makes me feel like I'm playing Dark Souls, but in Transformers. I've also found that several melee weapons can be charged up for a heavy attack by holding down triangle, but I find the utility of this particular feature very questionable, especially since enemies are very aggressive, so you won't have much time to charge it up.
Hammer down!
Melee combat looks dumb and simple upon first glance, but enemies have states of invulnerability that stop you from being able to stunlock whoever you're fighting. Some other special weapons you get from beating certain chapters are also pretty cool, like the Star Saber, the Shockwave Blaster, Starscream's Null Rays, Menassor's Ionizer Sword, and even Megatron's Fusion Cannon. Some levels also give you things that you can pick up and throw, like cars, trucks, or these containers. You can synthesize weapons by selecting a base weapon and a secondary weapon, which gives you an augmented version of the base weapon you put in. Another great feature of the game is the focus mechanic, where if you dodge an enemy just as they're about to hit you, it'll activate slow motion and you can get some easy hits in. After a couple of attacks, you can press the transformation button to ram your opponent in alt mode. And speaking of alt mode, transforming has a greater importance here than in any other Transformers games. To transform, you need to hold the dodge button down until the transformation finishes, which is 1.5 seconds. When you transform, you start moving slowly, but you build up speed pretty quickly, which can be used to ram enemies by itself, or by hitting the attack button, which you'll manually do to break the enemy's shield, if they have one. And even though you'd probably expect vehicle mode to be less maneuverable than you are in robot mode, maneuverability in alt mode is better than you'd think. It's unrealistic, but considering how aggressive the enemies can be, and how movement is crucial to survival, more realistic vehicular movement would probably have been a death sentence if it was implemented. And much like the Cybertron games, you can fire guns in vehicle mode. But unlike the Cybertron games, you can jump and hold the transformation button to ground slam. And if you're playing as Grimlock, some things that pertain to alt mode work a little different than how they do for everybody else. For Grimlock, you can dodge in both modes, and rapidly tapping the circle button makes him run faster in Dino mode. And the only ranged weapon Grimlock can use in Dino mode is the Flame Breath. And I think this is a good segue into the differences between playing as each Autobot. In Transformers Devastation, you have 5 playable Autobots that you can pick from: Optimus, Bumblebee, Sideswipe, Wheeljack, and Grimlock. Like I said, they all start off with loadouts that you can change, but I've found that they all have different max speeds in alt mode, and in robot mode, they have different movement speeds, different damage outputs, and different amounts of health. I initially sucked at playing as Grimlock because he is easily the slowest bot out of the group, and I just did not know how to use him. And his slowness is exacerbated if you decide to use a hammer as your melee weapon, but in any circumstance, dodge rolling is your best friend when you're playing as Grimlock. And another thing that helps you in this situation is animation canceling, i.e. bailing out of an attack if your opponent is going to hit you first. So me comparing this game to Dark Souls when you have a hammer isn't entirely accurate, and some bots can't wield certain weapons. This is indicated to you when you're selecting weapons in the Arc, and there are also weapons that every bot can wield, but some weapons like the hammers can only be wielded by Grimlock and Optimus, and some weapons can only be wielded by smaller bots. This also applies to the throwables because most of the bots can't pick up the tanker trucks. You can definitely have your fun playing as each of them, but the one that I've had the most fun as is Bumblebee, mainly because of how fast he is. And the feeling of being able to turn fights against bigger bots into a brawl of David and Goliath is also pretty fun too. But that's not where the differences stop. Each bot has two abilities, a special and an ultimate. The yellow bar indicates that your special ability is ready. Each special ability is different, and most of them are defensive, with two exceptions being Optimus and Grimlock. Optimus attacks with his trailer, nice. Bumblebee can slide under enemies for some easy follow-up attacks, Sideswipe has a dash, Wheeljack has a shield, and Grimlock grabs his enemies and drags them across the ground. The ultimate abilities are purely offensive, and get charged up by attacking enemies. Each one of these attacks is great for crowd control, and they all feel like they belong to the characters they're being used by. All of them are great, but I especially like Bumblebee's Bomb Barrage. I also felt like I needed to be in the right situation to use one of these, because using an ultimate attack on one enemy just feels like a waste in my opinion, unless you're going up against a boss, but we'll get to those later. And you can also tweak your character's stats, but there were two stats that I had absolutely no idea what they did. In particular, courage and intelligence. Speed, strength, and endurance are pretty easy to figure out, but what do courage and intelligence do in this game? Well, after looking into it, courage has to do with defense, and intelligence has to do with ranged attacks. So, I guess we solved that mystery. Leveling up your rank gives you more slots to equip tech, and tech gives you certain buffs, and you can develop new tech with this minigame where you need to stop the line in the orange spots to get the best possible tech. At least, that's what I thought. Because after doing this minigame a couple of times, it seems that whatever tech I get is purely randomized. Sometimes you can get something as low as 4%, but this one time I got tech that boosted your bot's health by 300%. Damn. And since this minigame does cost credits, it really does feel like gambling. And speaking of credits, you get credits by defeating enemies, opening chests, breaking containers, and completing chapters, which you can use to unlock new moves, buy repair kits, buy energy refill kits for your guns, and boosters that augment damage output and resistance to attacks. Ah, scrap. I completely forgot about the unlockable moves. Somebody call Unlockable Protective Services on me for being a neglectful player. The one that I found the most use out of, that I got the hang of the quickest, was the rush combo, where you hold the triangle button when you're in top speed and alt mode, and then start mashing it to do a flurry, which is not something that Grimlock can do. Parrying was something that made no sense to me with its explanation. Allows you to parry any incoming attack by pressing the movement button in the direction of the attack just as it lands. What in the slag are you talking about? I had to look this up to figure out what in the hell this even meant, and it wants you to hit L3. Then why not just tell me to hit L3 instead of telling me to hit the movement button? You rewrote the console version's instructions to correspond with buttons on my controller, so why didn't you do the same here? Still safe as hitting R1 just as you're hit to avoid damage. You can shove enemies by quickly moving the stick back and forth to throw enemies off kilter. I originally didn't think this worked on the tank soldiers, but it does. So you can totally go Megan Thee Stallion on these MFs. The spin attack can be used to get a group off of you. The burnout is done by holding circle when not moving in vehicle mode, then release it to immediately reach top speed, which I believe is very situational because you need to not be moving to use it. And there's the reversal you do by holding square, triangle, or L2 upon achieving focus for an immediate counterattack. With practice, you can pull off some very stylish combos with these unlockable moves. Now let's talk enemies. The first enemies you run into are ground soldiers. These guys will attack you with swords, and some of them have shields that you need to do a vehicle mode rush attack to break. There are sergeant ground soldiers that dash around the battlefield and will attack you more aggressively. Tank soldiers are big brutes that will attack you with hammers. Seekers will fly around, fire at you, and some of them will snipe you from a distance. There are shielded snipers that will show up in one fight that you need to rush attack. Elite Seekers will attack you with swords and fly away to more advantageous positions and try to do it again. There are giant robot arms that'll try to crush you. Shrapnel will generate lightning, which will hit you if you don't move. Bombshell will power up to ram you. And Kickback will kick you. And very rarely the Insecticons will transform to fight you in robot mode. In total, that's 11 enemy types. 13 if you count the bigger Insecticons and the shielded ground soldiers. And since this is a Platinum game, every battle is ranked by how long the fight took and how much damage you took. There's more that I could cover, like the phenomenal boss fights, but we'll get to them as we go through the story. The game opens on a beautiful day in what I'm going to call Scramble City, when the Decepticons start wreaking havoc with the Insecticons at their side. Megatron orders the Constructicons to build a perimeter around the city because there's something beneath the city that's using plasma energy that Megatron needs for his plan. But the Autobots aren't going to let this happen, so they get to the center of the city and Optimus says their mission is clear, that they need to stop Megatron. The Autobots get separated and you're taken through the tutorial, where you're taught about the combat, the different Kaon barriers you need to destroy, and the turbines that make you need to transform to be able to get past them. After the tutorial, you run into Devastator and you have a boss fight with him. Devastator will swipe at you, he'll create a mound to hit you easier, and he'll shoot you with his rifle. Landing headshots on him does the most damage, and I've played this game so much that I was able to get double S rank. Megatron contacts Devastator to tell him he's needed elsewhere, and Devastator tells the Autobots that this isn't over. After destroying one of the arms and fighting through some cons, Optimus runs into Megatron, and he demands to know why he's wreaking havoc. Megatron tells Optimus that he has no idea what he's really up against. Optimus tells Megatron that Earth is their home and they should respect it. But Megatron tells Optimus that he doesn't intend to destroy Earth, and he says he intends to make some improvements, and we have a fight with Megatron in a boss fight. Megatron has a shield that you need to break by getting to max speed in vehicle mode and smashing it. After his shield is broken, you can land some hits on Megatron, but he'll also attack back with one of his attacks being him firing a shot in tank mode. The fight ends prematurely when a huge tower gets erected in the middle of the city, and Optimus contacts the Autobots that Megatron is headed for it. Megatron makes it to the tower, and he exclaims that the tower is communicating with the Insecticons. Long Haul comes along, and now you need to chase Megatron and wail on him when you catch up to him. His health won't go down past 1%, so you're obviously meant to follow him to wherever he's going. Megatron declares that something will happen here as the Autobots corner him, but the Autobots are in for more than they bargained for, as an electric fence activates around them, and you have a rematch with Megatron. This time, Megatron has a current that's pushing you back, that you need to counter by driving through these speed circles and break his shield, while making sure that you don't run into the electric fence. But Megatron won't go down without a fight, because he will mess you up if you don't watch his attacks and counter them. After the fight, an entrance to an underground facility springs out of the ground, and Megatron enters it and tells the Autobots that he activated the security system. Optimus tells Teletran 1 to analyze the facility, and Teletran tells Optimus that it's a ship of unknown origin buried underneath the city, and the security system can be shut down by deactivating 3 sub-generators, which will make the primary generator vulnerable. And each generator is protected by 2 Constructicons that you need to fight simultaneously before you turn off the generators. The first generator I tackled was guarded by Hook and Scrapper. Hook will dash around the arena and slash at you with a sword, and he'll transform and whip you with his crane arm. Scrapper will punch you and transform to launch you in the air with his bucket. The next 2 Constructicons that I fought were Scavenger and Bone Crusher. Bone Crusher hits like a truck, and he'll transform to burrow and hit you when he comes back up, and he'll fire his drill at you. Scavenger moves fast, and he'll combo you if you're not careful. Scavenger will also transform to fling debris and hit you with his bucket. And the last 2 I fought were Long Haul and Mixmaster. Mixmaster will transform, leave sludge behind that will slow you down if you touch it, and you need to waggle the left stick to snap out of it, and in robot mode, he'll shoot out the goo and try to punch you. Long Haul will throw punches and transform to ram you, and the primary generator has you fighting Devastator again, but this time, he'll get out his drill hands and he'll attack more aggressively when you get him down to half health. After Devastator is defeated, the Autobots get contacted by Megatron, and he tells them that he plans to cyberform planet Earth, essentially turning it into a new Cybertron, which will kill off every organic creature on Earth. Now, you have to destroy a sentry bot to get the key code to enter the ship that's buried underneath the city. The sentry bot will fire at you as you attack it, and Seekers will provide cover fire for it, but the entrance to the ship is guarded by Insecticons, so you need to fight them off before entering the ship. The Autobots enter the ship, and Optimus tells us that this ship is the Proudstar, the ship of Nova Prime. Wheeljack is in disbelief that an Autobot ship is responsible for all the destruction, but Optimus doubts that it was an Autobot hand that caused it. Optimus goes on to explain that Nova Prime wanted to preserve their Cybertronian culture, and that he was a part of a covenant called the Colonnade of Cybertron, and the essential aspects of their heritage was placed inside the Ferrotaxis, the supercomputer that controls the Proudstar. Right now, the Ferrotaxis is controlling the Plasma Core and the Insecticons, so they need to find the Plasma Core and shut it down to stop the cyberforming so they can preserve their culture without straight up destroying the Ferrotaxis. On the way to find the Plasma Core, you run into Soundwave and you fight him alongside Ravage and Laserbeak. Soundwave will push you back by creating a massive shockwave, and he'll bombard you with missiles and sonic waves, and getting up close to him will have him throw punches at you. Ravage will rush you and charge up to attack you, and he can dodge your attacks, and Laserbeak will fly around and fire lasers at you. Despite being a communications officer, Soundwave does not mess around. The fight ends prematurely with Megatron telling him that he needs him, and that the others can handle the Autobots. I should also mention that this is where the game really puts the platforming controls to use. Much like the last game, you have a double jump, but unlike the last game, you have far more influence on your trajectory after you leave the ground, so you can make jumps far more precisely than you can in Transformers Earthspark Expedition. This chapter of the game also has a turret section, and this part of the game is awesome. The turret has a fast fire rate, it kills everything in one shot, and it's just satisfying to use. I also like that some targets have splash damage, and they move like it's Galaga, but the turret gets destroyed and you need to fight Shrapnel. No, I will not call him that. Shrapnel still has his lightning attack in bug mode, but he'll also dive bomb you and shoot you with a beam attack, as well as try to smash you in robot mode. The platform comes to a stop and you run into Bombshell, who you engage in a boss fight. Bombshell still has his dive bomb attack, but he'll shoot this goo in both modes that it will explode after some time, and he's got a shockwave attack on top of hitting you if you're up close. The Autobots get to the Plasma Core, and Wheeljack says there's a high chance the Plasma Core will detonate if they blow it up.
Define chance.
My figure's unprecise, but at current calculations, roughly 92.787% chance it will detonate.
But before we deal with the Plasma Core, we need to deal with Kickback. Much like the two before him, he'll still hop around the battlefield trying to kick you, he'll dash around the arena throwing punches and kicks in robot mode, and he'll fire a volley of shots at you with a machine gun. Once you get him down to half health, Bombshell and Shrapnel will join in to make the fight more chaotic. This is what I love about this game. It ramps up the action at the best times and makes you feel like a total badass. After you defeat the Insecticons, you now need to break the crystal shielding for the Plasma Core. After you wheel on the shielding for a bit, it'll push you back, making you need to transform to get back to it, and it'll have kinetic shielding that you need to rush attack. After you break the crystal shielding, Megatron tells Optimus that he's not letting him get his hands on it, and launches the Plasma Core out of the ship. Ejecting the Plasma Core slowed the cyberforming, but Optimus knows that Megatron will go after it to speed it back up again. Wheeljack points out that the Plasma Core sprung a leak before it ejected, so they need to find it pronto and shut it down. So the Autobots need to find a Decepticon to get information out of on the Plasma Core's whereabouts. You run into Thundercracker and you need to chase him down and shoot at him. Optimus tells Thundercracker that it would be a good day for him to join their cause, and he says that his loyalty only goes so far because he believes that tampering with plasma energy is madness.
Wow, that took like no convincing at all. No wonder they call you Thundercracker.
Very funny, Pipsqueak.
Thundercracker tells them that the core is on the island across the bridge, and that Megatron sent Blitzwing after it. The Autobots get to the bridge, but the Decepticons are setting up defenses around the island, and Wheeljack speculates that they could be trying to patch the core before they move it. Bumblebee gets the idea to use Red Energon to thin out the Decepticon forces guarding the bridge, and the game goes into a top-down view as you grab an Energon cube from one of the two caches nearby. Once you grab it, you can throw it to make it explode, but the Red Energon will regenerate, so you don't have to go pick up another cube. The Autobots use the Red Energon against the guards, but Starscream decides he's going to prove his worth to Megatron, and you engage in a boss fight with him. Starscream will fire his null ray at you, try to punch you, bombard you with missiles, and transform to dive bomb you. If Starscream hits you with his null ray, then you'll get stunned and need to waggle the left stick to regain control. Being the treacherous afterburner he is, he goes for a hit-and-run approach, so he'll blitz across the battlefield and barrage you with everything he's got. After you defeat Starscream, you run into Blitzwing on the bridge, and you need to fight him. Blitzwing will shoot you in tank mode, try to ram you, and jump to try and crush you. He'll transform into jet mode, and bombard you with missiles, drop bombs, create fire hazards, and blow out sections of the bridge that you need to jump over. If you fall off the bridge, it'll take away some health and spawn you back on the bridge. This made it so Bumblebee drove over the empty space of the bridge, which is pretty funny. It's not my favorite fight of the game, but I definitely think this fight is a nice change of pace from the other fights. The Autobots get to the plasma core, but Blitzwing isn't going to let them get it without a rematch. Blitzwing will barrage you with missiles and dash to hit you if you're far away. After you get him down to 3/4 of his health, he'll start bombarding you with ice missiles that you need to waggle the left stick to get unfrozen from, and shoot massive shells at you in tank mode, as well as trying to ram you. After Blitzwing is defeated, Optimus tells Wheeljack to find a way to get the plasma core off the planet because of how dangerous it is, but Starscream comes along and takes the core for himself. Megatron asks Soundwave what happened, and he tells Megatron that they were unable to repair the leak before Starscream took the core, meaning that it's going to detonate if they don't fix it. Megatron demands that Starscream bring the core back to the tower immediately because it's unstable, and he responds thusly.
Unstable? Oh, you don't say.
So the Autobots need to make it back to the city to patch the core. Starscream drops the core in the city, and Megatron orders Motormaster to get the plasma core. Optimus tells Teletran to scan for Starscream's coordinates, to which Teletran gives him probable coordinates based on Starscream's trajectory. You have to race Motormaster to the plasma core, which is pretty hard to do if you picked Grimlock because you need to rapidly tap the circle button all the way there. On the way to the core, Motormaster gets fed up with the Autobots' persistence, and he tells them to give it up already, but Optimus says no you, and they engage Motormaster in a boss fight. Motormaster has an electric sword that he'll swing at you, and he can use it to launch a beam attack, fling projectiles, and summon lightning. He can also create lightning balls that will slowly advance towards you that you can destroy. After you defeat Motormaster, Wheeljack makes a device that can track the plasma core. The sensor will change color if you're headed in the right direction, and it'll turn red the closer you get to the core. But the Decepticons will make that job harder for you, so you gotta fight off cons on the way. The Autobots get to the core, and Wheeljack points out that the crack in the casing is getting bigger, and if it's not dealt with, it could do a whole host of terrible things, so the Autobots need to fight off Decepticons while Wheeljack patches the leak temporarily. And this is the first fight where the other Autobots are controlled by the AI, and they're actually pretty competent at fighting off the cons. I loved it when they did a similar thing in Transformers War for Cybertron, and this is equally pretty fun. Wheeljack manages to get the case open, but the Stunticons come along and form Menasor. Menasor will lunge at you with his sword, fire his rifle at you, and separate into the Stunticons to ram you. Once you get him down to half health, he'll charge up his sword and he'll start launching projectiles at you, create shockwaves, the lightning balls, and pick you up with a tornado. This fight is pretty cool, but I think it would have been cooler if they managed to fit fights with the other Stunticons somewhere in the game like they did with the Constructicons. There was a 6th member of the Stunticons in Combiner Wars when this game was released, so they could have had 3 fights with 2 Stunticons each, though I imagine that would have taken more time to design. Menasor denies his defeat by the Autobots, and he throws the plasma core at the tower, and the Insecticons bring it to Megatron, where he orders his troops into the space bridge so they can fix the core on Cybertron. Wait a minute, if they can go back to Cybertron, then why does Megatron feel the need to cyberform Earth? What's wrong with Cybertron? It's established that plasma cores can only be repaired at plasma energy interfaces on Cybertron, but that doesn't explain why Megatron needs to cyberform Earth. I guess maybe Cybertron is out of power or something, but at the same time, doesn't the plasma energy interface require energy to work? I feel like me asking these questions is really showing how much of a fake fan I am. Anyway, the Autobots follow the Decepticons through the space bridge, but they run into Starscream and you gotta fight him again. This fight is a lot like the first time you fought him, but now the plane you fight him on is constantly rotating, which makes this fight feel more manic than before. This fight feels a lot like that get rotated meme, and yeah, I'm the idiot that's getting rotated. I also feel like they could have leaned into the lack of floor by changing the running animation into a jetpack animation and getting rid of the dust effect. The Autobots make it to Cybertron, and Optimus tells Megatron that annihilation of inhabited planets is not what their ancestors wanted, but Megatron says he doesn't really know what they wanted, and you have to fight Blitzwing again, but now he's accompanied by some ground soldiers. The Autobots find the Decepticons repairing the plasma core, and they run into Shockwave, and we fight him. Shockwave will fire volleys of projectiles at you and punch and kick you if you get up close. He'll transform to fire a beam attack at you, and he'll create the lightning balls that follow you. Once you get him down to 3/4 of his health, he'll start creating moving laser obstacles, he'll transform to stun you, and clone himself to make the fight more chaotic. The only thing the clones can't do is transform. He moves pretty fast, so I do not recommend equipping a hammer as your melee weapon like I foolishly did. Stupid! After you defeat Shockwave, Megatron gets away, Bumblebee asks Shockwave if he realizes how insane this plan is, and Shockwave tells the Autobots that it was Nova Prime who sought to cyberform populated worlds. But Optimus calls his bluff, and the Autobots proceed to leave Cybertron. We cut to Megatron overseeing the reactivation of the Plasma Core, which makes the Insecticons continue the cyberforming at a faster rate. But the higher power output, along with the shoddy repairs from the Constructicons, are making the Plasma Core create a gravitational anomaly, so you gotta drive out of this room while fighting the gravitational pull. Wheeljack tells Optimus that the Plasma Core is going critical and is going to keep pumping out power until it explodes. Optimus asks how big the explosion will be, to which Wheeljack says it'll cause planetary extinction, so even though the Ferrotaxis contains much as their lost culture, they may just need to destroy it to save Earth. On the way to get out of the Proud Star, Soundwave sabotages the lift they need to get out of here, so you need to fight off Decepticons while Wheeljack fixes the lift. The hardest part of this battle is the snipers that hide behind shields. You need to rush attack them, but they're on top of platforms that make them harder to get with a rush attack. Towards the end of this fight, robot arms will tilt the platform, so you need to deal with them. Wheeljack gets the lift working, but Soundwave sends some intercepting forces that you need to fight off, which ends with a robot arm knocking around the lift. Megatron then orders Soundwave to send a sentry bot to stop you, which means yet another boss fight. The sentry bot will make the tiles on the floor ascend to hit you and give you less floor to move on. It'll also create lightning balls and use a sweeping beam attack that you need to jump over. Grimlock says that he doesn't like this place, and Optimus says that he agrees, and senses something. He senses that Nova Prime was corrupted by something which made him want to destroy Earth. So Shockwave was lying that Nova Prime wanted to cyberform populated worlds. Nova Prime also sent something their way that's hellbent on their destruction. The Autobots run into Soundwave, and you have a rematch with him. There's a part of me that feels like Platinum wanted to put in more Decepticons to fight, but didn't have the time or money or possibly the license from Hasbro to do so. This fight is similar to the last time you fought him, but Frenzy, Rumble, and Buzzsaw will join the party, and Soundwave will start messing with the floor when you get him down to 3/4 of his health. But Soundwave's not the only one that messes with the floor, because Rumble and Frenzy are also going to mess with the floor using their pile drivers, and Buzzsaw is just a palette swap of Laserbeak. After Soundwave's defeated, Optimus tells the Autobots to be ready for anything because Megatron is close. The next stretch of the game is a gauntlet that throws everything at you. It's got ground soldiers, it's got Seekers, it's got Insecticons, it's got Motormaster, and at the end of it, it throws Skywarp and Thundercracker at you, who are just reskins of Starscream because they don't do anything different. The Autobots confront Megatron, and Optimus demands him to give them the Ferrotaxis, but Megatron says he'll give it back to him once he's done remaking Earth, and he orders the Constructicons to kill them, which has you fighting every Constructicon at once, with the help of the other Autobots. And once you defeat all the Constructicons, they form Devastator, and you fight him a third time. And once you get him down to half health, he whips out his drills, and Menasor joins in. Sweet Solus Prime, this fight could not get any more hectic unless you added Bruticus, Predaking, and Leo Kaiser. After you take down both combiners, Bumblebee points out that Megatron went to the surface, and Optimus says his classic line.
Autobots, roll out!
The Autobots confront Megatron again, and he declares that their home will live again, but Optimus says that he can't let Megatron destroy Earth. Megatron laments that they could have been allies, but Optimus didn't have the manifolds to do what he needed to. But Optimus says that he has the manifolds to stand up for those who cannot stand for themselves. He demands Megatron give him the Ferrotaxis, but Megatron says he'll need to take him down to get it, and we have two final fights with Megatron. Megatron will start this fight by creating fire hazards, and he'll fire his fusion cannon at you when you're far away, and when you get close, he'll swing his flail and throw punches. He'll also create the electric balls, and he'll dodge away sometimes, which I like to imagine is his version of the focus mechanic. And he'll transform to ram you and fire at you. Megatron decides that if he can't have the Ferrotaxis, then no one can, and he launches it into space. But Optimus rides the Insecticons to the Ferrotaxis, and Megatron follows him for the final fight of the game. Megatron will transform to fire at you and try to crush you in the void of space, and he'll do the donut attack. The one new attack that Megatron has in robot mode is this massive energy ball that will pull you in as it's getting charged, and you need to dodge when he throws it at you. This battle is awesome. The over-the-top nature of the combat, along with Megatron being at his most aggressive, makes this one of the most epic boss fights I've ever played. And it ends with you mashing circle and striking Megatron with that attack he had in the G1 movie. Optimus tries to shut down the Insecticons with the Ferrotaxis, but it won't let him, and he demands that Megatron tell him what he did. Megatron tells him that this was one last failsafe he put in place. So in order to shut off the Insecticons, he needs to destroy the Ferrotaxis. And even though Optimus didn't want it to come to this, he puts Earth first and destroys the Ferrotaxis, which deactivates the Plasma Core and shuts off the Insecticons. Optimus sacrificed the fate of Cybertronian culture for the humans to decide their own fate. And as Optimus falls to Earth, he delivers one of his epic speeches that you just need to hear.
Autobots, we have lived on Earth for decades. But I see now that we have not truly accepted Earth as our home, holding out some distant hope that we would return to a newly reforged Cybertron. And maybe one day that will happen. But we cannot continue to live in between worlds. From this day forward, we are no longer Cybertronians who are stranded on another world. Now, we are a part of Earth. And we must treat Earth as though we were forged here. And we must protect our home, no matter the cost.
We cut to the Autobots aboard the Ark, with Optimus recovering from his fall from orbit, and taking solace that Earth is doing good as well. Optimus asks Wheeljack if he found a way to strengthen their forces, and Wheeljack says it's not without risks. They get contacted by Defensor and Superion, who tell him that they don't have to do this alone. And we're shown a diagram of Optimus Maximus on Teletrain 1, which was most likely a teaser for a sequel. That unfortunately will never come because Activision sucks. Man, that would have been awesome if we were able to play as 3 awesome combiners. Talk about robbery. Especially painful that they teased a sequel with the post-credit scene where Nova Prime wakes up on the Proud Star. Screw the MCU, I wanted to see what would happen after this game. Other than that, the game also has collectibles like Decepticon emblems you can shoot, files you can collect, Crimzeek hidden around certain parts of the game, side missions, and letters that spell a word. There's even a challenge mode you can play, and you know what, let's skim through it a little. The challenge mode has 5 different kinds of challenges: defeat enemies, arcade fighting, finish in time, defend Wheeljack, and punt the Decepticon. Defeating enemies is self-explanatory. You fight groups of enemies in waves, or fight either one boss or a group of bosses like the Constructicons or Blitzwing and Starscream. One fight I thought was pretty cool was fighting the clone Autobots, which has you fighting each playable Autobot with all their attacks. One fight I was disappointed by was fighting the Stunticons, where the only actual Stunticon you fight is Motormaster. Like I said, I understand that this game was rushed and designing each individual Stunticon would have taken more time to model, animate, and program, but it still sucks that Motormaster is the only actual Stunticon in this game. Next up is defeating as many enemies as possible, which is kinda like COD Zombies, in that you need to fight to survive and get a high score. If you get hit, you'll lose time, but you can get more time by smashing the kinetic barrier on the weapon chest. Finish in time has you getting to the objective under the time limit, while defeating enemies and breaking stuff along the way in order to get a better rank. This is kind of what you'd get if you took Mario Kart Time Trials and injected Transformers into it. One problem I have with this particular challenge type is that if the track is not a straight line, then the objective marker can confuse you as to where you're supposed to go on the mini-map. Defending Wheeljack is also pretty self-explanatory. Defend Wheeljack until the time runs out, with no other Autobots helping you. This mode is pretty intense considering the lack of friendly AI. And finally, punting the Decepticon. Unlike the other modes, the object is not to kill the enemies. Instead, you need to make them fly into one of the goals to get a high score within the time limit. You need to do a rush attack to get the ground soldiers to fly into one of the goals. And the goals with higher values are smaller than the lowest ones, making this minigame easy to learn but hard to master. And like the story mode, you can change the difficulty and get ranks after each mission. Depending on the rank you get, you're also given a selection of weapons as your prize, but this exacerbates a problem with the game. When you go to the Ark, you'll notice that your weapon inventory is limited to 200 weapons, and when you get more than that, you need to sell off your surplus, which gives you credits. It gets pretty annoying that I need to sell off my weapon surplus every so often so I can continue. This can happen when you're playing the story mode, but it becomes especially problematic in the challenge mode. One thing that makes the challenge mode a little easier is the fact that you can still use items like health kits, and the auto repair drones are still a thing here. This mode is a lot of fun, and it gives you an easy opportunity to test out new weapons. And overall, this game is awesome. Transformers Devastation is an excellent game, and while I do feel it doesn't look the best, and could have used some more Decepticons for boss fights, the excellent soundtrack, gameplay, and story makes those problems not as substantial as they could be. And the integration of transformation into the combat is also a nice touch. Pick this game up if you're a fan of Transformers. Thanks for 1,000 subscribers, and here's to however more we get on the way. Thanks for watching, and gotta zoom.
For the record, I hated that game and beat it on expert difficulty with minimal deaths. The story was brilliantly executed, but it was just Platinum being Platinum and making a mash A to win beat 'em up. Some people like that sort of thing, fine, but I prefer my games to have a higher skill requirement.